so I would really be stuck into that pattern for a long time. So I finally forced myself to break out of it and make myself do a lot of other things. So the idea of it here, the final analysis of what I'm talking about is, once you understand a shape, and you understand that from one note you've got all these moves you can go to, all these different notes, and you have a one stable spot to find is that is your note. That's the key you're in. Now usually, like when I first started bass, it's like, okay, I got a G here. I know this move. Paul Samuel Smith and the Yardbirds.
Exactly.
Then we used to do it up an octave. It's like, oh, a whole different one. So you saw for like 2 or 3 years of my playing, it goes just all in that one pattern. And then after a while, you learn to expand it more, and you have more patterns and more option notes to go from G. You can go to there, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one.
So are these shapes you would commonly call on in improvising?
Yeah, I guess in the beginning, when you're first starting to understand improvising, I guess you would work with shapes.
Right.
Eventually, you get to the point where you're not thinking shapes, you're thinking music. You're not thinking what scale you're doing. You're thinking, I have an emotion, and here it is, via the bass. I look at learning the shapes and learning all the spots on the neck to understand, similar to in language, because music is in a way a language, learning a little bit of vocabulary. So you get kind of it's a building block. Sure, when you're in school, you got to learn spelling and vocabulary and sentence structure, and it's a drag and you hate it. And that's what this kind of is. Learning sentence structure, similar to learning the structure of the patterns. But once you know it, you can speak like we're speaking now.
Right.
And this is what music should be like.
Communication.
Just like I'm talking to you. Exactly. Where it's just effortless. I'm not thinking pattern. Let it fly. And all that comes, the fluidity of being able to just play something. Play something, just to play it. Comes from just years of learning what in the world is going on in this space right here. It's a very small amount of space, but you have to understand the patterns and the tunings and all the things that different emotions and major and minor will give you and everything like that. Once you know that, then it becomes music again. So
it's all contained in those sets of intervals that we'd spoken about, their orders, and finally the patterns, how they recur.
Yeah, that's the technology of it.
Right.
In real life, you want to play it. Mm-hmm. So that's why instructing or explaining, this is not real life. This
you have to absorb it and recreate with it.
This is the foundation.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for building strength and endurance in practice periods, particularly, designed for stage use?
Yeah, whenever you have a move that you're doing, you have to pull it apart piece by piece. Find the weak spot and just isolate that. Like for me, for example, sometimes this finger lags behind the other ones. So I'll sit there and just do that finger
by itself?
For a while by itself, and then in context with that one. And then all three. And then reverse. And then reverse that way, and just do those two together, and then by itself, all different strings and every different combination, till you get that finger up to its normal strength again. So when you're having trouble, sometimes it's really hard to pull a lick apart because it goes by real fast, and you're not sure really what's wrong with it. So do it real slow. Take it, like...
How slow would you do it, for example, if you had to demonstrate that?
Like, oh, you're doing a lick that's like...
Slower and harder as well, push harder.
Yeah, so you can kind of see which, because as you hear in there, there's certain skip notes, and when you really analyze it close, it's not quite right. When you're playing live a lot of stuff is blowing by, and you don't really notice it. And you can have a lot of inconsistencies in your playing that you're not aware of. So a lot of times just to stop, slow down, go sit in a dressing room or a quiet room and work it out and find the weak spot and pound on it. I guess it's basically... in order to prevent hurting yourself, and if you know a little bit about, I don't really know anything about bodybuilding, any kind of exercising thing like that, but if you talk to somebody who knows, and they'll tell you, like, you need to do a little warm-up period, and then work on it, and then back off, and work on it again so you don't overstrain it and everything, So it's important.
Or whatever.
Yeah, so just keep it's common sense, basically.
Exactly. Okay, well, let's move on to your thoughts on applying licks and parts of techniques to song. What can you tell us about you know, the theory behind keeping it in check so that the song comes first and the
So you don't overplay.
Yeah, basically.
Boy, you got the wrong guy for that, huh?
But it works. No, I mean, you keep yourself in check within the song context.
Yeah, if you listen to Paul McCartney's playing, he's playing all over the place. Tim Bogart, Jeff Berlin, Geddy Lee plays pretty busily. But it's a matter of, again, what we talked about when I was talking about patterns and stuff. Once you know the neck really well, you can move all around. If it makes musical sense, it will work. And if you know your stuff, because I've seen a lot of bass players also just like flying all over the place, and where's one? But 90% of my playing is...
It's in the pocket. You're aware of the pocket.
You know, just right on, trying to keep the song happening. You get your spots to do it.
Right.
But try to, you know, to stick with what you're supposed to be doing to make the song sound like the song. So I would suggest for a young player to just, you know, play it with a band, make it work, and then add the frosting later.
Exactly. Now, what's your concept behind the secret notes that you're often reputed to play?
Ooh, secret note reputer.
Yeah.
Well, basically, that's just kind of a humorous term for moving the root note around underneath what the basic root of the song, the chord you're playing. Simplest example of it is when you're like doing the famous rock change, which is Stairway to Heaven, Million Judas Priest, you know, the millions of. Say the root note is E, go up to F sharp, and then to a G.
Aha. So it's like substitute bass notes or other notes other than the root.
Right. So instead of so it works because those notes are in that chord somewhere. But that's the simple version. We're doing now. We're doing a live "Blame It on My Youth." I'm like a for the chorus part. So when I go "Blame It on My Youth," I go up to the.
Aha.
What is that? It's a B. I remember the first time I did it, Eric looked over and like, hey, what was that? Do that again,
Interesting sound.
Yeah, so it's just when the guitar moves one way, you just move the other way, and you kind of make it automatic. That's basically the idea is just a kind of a rock perversion of what Bach does with moving bass lines.
Exactly.
If you want to get an idea what that is, just get a well-tempered clavier, which is just pieces by Bach, which is solo, piano, or harpsichord. I prefer it with, because you can hear it much better. And you'll hear the bass line moving all over the place underneath the same melody line, and suddenly the melody line does not sound the same anymore because the bass line is different. That's the idea behind it.
Redefined.
Yeah. So whenever we're, you know, a lot of songs we're doing.
It's in Merciless too, isn't it?
Yeah. In. Just before that part.
Paul goes to a D sharp chord. Yeah. Right.
Oops. To the E. Well, I did that one night too.
Yeah.
But and whenever you make a mistake, just play it again. It'll sound like you meant to do it. So.
That's a good rule to keep in mind.
I've done that many times, and then left it in the song because it actually worked after a while. So.
Do you ever practice that at home too?
Making mistakes? Oh, that's all I practice.
Getting out of them?
Oh, that's all I practice there, right.
Well, now, in our first video, we established a core of pretty strong fundamental ideas. Let's talk about how you apply some of those ideas. Okay. I'm specifically referring to the beginning of the Had Enough song, where you play an intro bass solo. Yeah. It contains a lot of your interesting techniques.
When I first started seeing guys doing sweep things on guitar, Paul Gilbert and people like that, Yngwie and stuff, doing sweep stuff, it was really intriguing, but I was a finger player, so a little difficult for me to get, you know, so I learned a couple. But for me that was a little awkward, so I had to think of a way to do kind of a sweep sound.